Ready?
Okay. We are.
Great, thank you. Okay, thank you, everybody, for being here. My name is Mike Wickers, Mayor of Cottonwood Heights. Today is Tuesday, October 17th, 2023. And this is the Cottonwood Heights City Council work session. So we're going to begin, how, like always, and do a review of our business meeting agenda for tonight. We'll start with the pledge. We'll have tonight is our city council committee reports that we'll all take 3 minutes with. Have a citizen comment period, and then we have 6 legislative items for this evening. And we'll start with 5.1, consideration of resolution 2023-51, approving an agreement with Brown's Amusement Inc. for the Butlerville Days Carnival, the same vendor that we've had in the past. Anything we want to go over on that, because I won't do that in the meeting.
Yeah, it's just real quickly, and the memo explains it. It's a 3-year agreement. We have opportunity to go through a process to pull out if we need to. The fees are all based on they're in the agreement. They include 20,000. They pay us the base fee, and then anything over 75,000, we get a share of that. And then there's also other base fees that they have to pay for games and other things. We're recommending approval.
Okay. Questions, comments?
The last 2 years, they've actually paid us. That revenue share has actually been a good additional.
Offset a lot of costs. Yeah, agreed. Okay, thank you. Next, for tonight will be consideration of resolution 2023-52, declaring certain property surplus. Do we want to have Paul or okay, Scott, you want
So really quick, there are 8 conference room chairs that are kind of old and worn that we would like to dispose of, and everything. Then there are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 phones that we utilized with AT&T that we're no longer needing to utilize at this point in time, and we'd like to surplus those. And then associated with the next thing, we're just recommending that the next items would be declared surplus, and I'll let the chief take care of that.
Okay, any questions from the staff before we go to the next item? Okay, yeah, go ahead, Chief Brenneman, which is resolution 2023-53, awarding the retiring police officer's badge and approving his purchase of a
This is
firearm.
a standard practice for this. Lieutenant Bartlett is retired. So as part of that, we'll award his gun and we'll award his badge. So pretty straightforward. We do it all the time.
Questions? Thanks. 5.4, consideration of resolution 2023-54, approving an agreement with the South Valley Chamber of Commerce for professional services. You want to talk about that, Tim, or are we going to Mike? Or?
Yeah, so the agreement is, as we discussed at the last meeting, with all of the kind of perks associated with it, notably the 10 free memberships to city businesses, which we'll have control over who gets that. The one update is they were able to prorate that contract, so all of the perks and everything and memberships and seats on committees remains the same, but for that first year, instead of 20,000, I think it's like $13,000, and then that will come up for renewal on July 1st of every year.
Okay, great. Any questions, comments from the staff? Council. Great. Item 5.5, consideration of resolution 2023-55, approving an agreement with Vigilant Solutions LLC for investigative data platform services.
Yeah, I'll start it, and then Assistant Chief Brenneman. So this is something that we brought forward to you. I think this is the 3rd time. We talked about it through the budget process, and the council awarded a budget amount to move forward with this. After more due diligence, we are partnering with Vigilant on this. There's multiple other entities across the valley that are doing that as well, and their costs are within our budget. You want to add anything to it?
No, just that it's a better platform. We consider block initially. Vigilance is going to work better for us in our opinion. It gives more mobility. It's used by Salt Lake City, West Valley, Highway Patrol, So we think this is the way the valley is gonna go, so we'll be on board with it.
Great. Questions, comments? And last for tonight, consideration of resolution 2023-56A, accepting an annexation petition. Let me stress the word petition, and I'll further talk about that for further consideration, or resolution 2023-56D, denying further consideration of an annexation petition. So let's be clear real quickly up front. This isn't any type of agreement to allow CWH to annex into our city. This is the council allowing the application process to move through to evaluate financially, tax wise, everything that would be in play if we were to allow them to come into the city. So anyway, do you want to cover?
Yeah, and that you covered it well. The only thing I would just add as far as timing on this, if you approve resolution to accept it, we will do our due diligence as staff and also determine if it meets all the parameters of state law and provide additional data for you. We have 14 days to have you either consider this petition, which is tonight, to move forward with the due diligence. After the 14 days, we have 30 days for the final consideration on that. So it's likely probably at the next meeting, if you accept this petition to do the due diligence, that we would need to come forward within the 30 days, which would probably be November 7th for final consideration of this. So just the timing is all I wanted to share.
Okay. Questions, comments?
I noticed Shane was coming in, at what point, it probably would be prudent to go through what the process actually is or is not, as far as you do your due diligence, we basically have a report. At which point then is there another decision? When would that have to be, when the annexation would actually be official? Because I know that doesn't actually happen until January or July.
Yeah, so we have 30 days, if you accept this, and Shane, you can correct me if I'm wrong. We have 14 days to consider this, which you're doing tonight, to move forward with evaluating the petition. Then we have 30 days, if you accept it tonight to do the evaluation, we have 30 days to do our due diligence and have it come back for you. We will prepare a report. The main elements that we're going to put forward are costs and impacts, and also if the petition is accurate and legitimate from a legal standpoint. And then you'll have to make a decision within 30 days. Is that correct?
No, there's a
I'm wrong.
There's a contest period as well, so I don't know that,
Or your average citizen can contest, is that correct?
yeah, I think that certainly the specified entities will be able to contest, and I would have to look at exactly.
I was gonna say, because it doesn't seem like that it would be base 14 days, and then in the 30 days, we've got to have a final decision. That seems
That's.
Okay, I was
really,
inaccurate then.
that seems really fast.
I was thinking it was 30 days that we had after today, but we'll look into that.
We have 30 days to process it, I believe is what the time is.
Okay.
And then the recorder makes a determination, and if there are defects, why then there's a cure process. And if there aren't, why then, well, at such point as the petition is conforming, why then the recorder provides a certification to the city council that it's ready to go, and that would trigger the protest period, I do believe.
So I do have a question, perhaps for our city attorney. In the event we were to process this petition, does this set the city up for litigation against the city after we have analyzed this petition? And then the second part of my question is, if we were to choose not to accept the petition at all, does that set us up for litigation in either case?
I think they're both going to be legislative decisions that are pretty tough to overcome, as opposed to administrative decisions. So no, I don't see a prospect of litigation based on refusal to proceed forward with the petition now, or to
or to accept the annexation once the petition is formally before the council.
So by doing the petition work, which will cost us staff time, which is money for taxpayers, so. You know, if our report comes up with some sense of favorable finding, but we, in our desire to protect the city from future liabilities, choose not to allow the annexation, we aren't going to the trouble of putting together data that could then be used against us in a court of
No,
law.
I don't. I think that it's a legislative decision and the council can decide that for whatever rational reason it determines to either annex or not annex.
So I'll just add, I think from my perspective, just with the information that I know today, I don't think that I'm as inclined to support an eventual annexation of this property, but if there is a group that wants to come and petition the city council and wants to have the opportunity to share their argument of why they think it's a good idea, I'm fine to give them that opportunity. I don't see my position changing, but if it does with new information, then it does. But I'm fine to give them a shot to come talk, at least talk to us and make their case. And I have no problem any resident doing that for any cause.
Shane, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the courts seem to rely heavily on legislative decisions from a city. And to go against what a city or anybody's legislatively is coming down on, it seems as though the courts are really hesitant to overrule.
Your legislative reasoning is not arbitrary or capricious.
Yeah.
That you have a reasonably debatable reason for your decision. The courts typically uphold that.
And there's a lot of precedents for that, a lot in the state. And so.
Well, and I will just repeat what I had said earlier, based on my concerns that the reason that Tabachi went through the county was there were several variances that were granted for that subdivision related to its high elevation position above the roadway, the private roadway. And so without some kind of special taxation district created, which I understand our city manager is looking into the possibility of being able to enact something like that. My constituents tell me they are vehemently opposed to the annexation of Tabachi, which would likely be annexed into District 4.
Thank you.
The reason Tabachi disannexed and went to the county had to do with the fact that they wanted to develop it in a way that the city was not going to allow. And they were on the borders. And so they said, well, we can de-annex and go out to the county, which is exactly what they did. The county told them no. Same as the city did. We are now 10, 12 years, I don't know, it's been many years since that time. The people that were originally asking for those development plans that were not granted by the city nor by the county have moved on, and that piece of property, which was originally in the city and then de-annexed, to the new owners are interested in coming back in. For many of the reasons we incorporated, they would like to have a little more local view and control over what's going on. I expect that their our planning process might be a little more accommodating to them. We certainly, with the updated sleds ordinance that we just went through, that holds them to the current standards of what needs to happen. But it wasn't an issue of liability or the variances were the variances were granted. The boxes were actually granted by the county pre-incorporation.
Well, great. Thank you for that. Appreciate all of that. The last item for tonight is the consent calendar, which are the minutes from our October 3rd meetings. Okay, so item number 3 are our staff reports. So if you remember, Matt, you wouldn't remember, but we get the opportunity every year to have the committees that we value so highly in our city, that amazing volunteers that come in and add so much to everything that we do. So we have them come in and give us a report, and so we're excited to have them all here with us. We're gonna start with one of my favorite people, Ken Verdoya from well, I was gonna say where you used to work, Ken, PBS, but we'll just have you coming up and present with the historic committee.
Would you like me to hear that?
Yeah, there you go.
I don't like displacing law enforcement. I work at. And I'll be working together with Paula, so if you see me nod knowingly in her direction, it's a slide change. My name is Ken Verdoya, and I'm Vice Chair of the Cottonwood Heights Historical Committee. Paula, you can go forward.
Here.
Oh,
Touch the arrows. Oh, is it not?
You've not shared the same.
Is it? It looks so good on mine, but it doesn't look good on.
Here, just Adobe.
And while you do that, can I share some trivia about your daughter?
I'll try to show it again.
please. First of all, the point of personal privilege, his daughter and my son were very, very close friends at Brighton High School. Extremely talented high school quarterback, and one of his best friends happened to play on the soccer team.
Yes, and she was a Gatorade All-American.
Pull this up.
That's correct.
Yes,
And
that was
what
the sport in soccer.
Wow.
And then,
Yeah,
And was inducted into the Seattle University Women's
yes.
Hall of Fame. And
that's gonna be.
was the first athlete from that university to play professionally in the National Women's Soccer League.
Yep.
Wow.
Very proud of
Wow.
one.
So I figured I had to brag about her a little bit.
Because he wasn't going to, so. That's fantastic.
That's awesome.
And off we go. Our service mission is pretty clear cut, but we also take some pride in it being evolving. We view our critical functions beyond those stated so very clearly to include capturing the human experience in this setting that we call home and making special efforts to share the history with this and future generations, not just to collect and keep in a closet, but get it out there so it can touch people's lives. Our team, functioning with your confirmation of membership, is a fascinating cross-section of skills and experience found in people who call Cottonwood Heights home and take a little bit of pride in making a small but durable contribution to our community. On our roster, we have a nationally recognized archivist, a member of the history faculty at Utah Valley University, a retired state district court judge, a former documentary producer for public television, and a number of residents whose families' experiences in this area now stretch to 4 and 5 generations of time. Consistent with our mission to preserve and share the history of our community, the Historic Committee has designed and implemented an online digital archive. Using the design of the Preservica archiving software, we continually upgrade and add to the collection, which is easily accessed through the Cottonwood Heights City website. Our efforts are a work in progress. They will always be a work in progress because we will never stop our pursuit of more important moments from history, be they photographs or documents. And we'll continue to build our oral history collection of interviews with key local leaders as well as longtime area residents. The Cottonwood Heights Digital Archive is now attracting national attention. For our size of community and for the relative youth of our incorporated status, it is virtually without precedent to have a comprehensive, curated historic collection available online. And yet our approach, based on voluntary yet highly skilled work done to professional standards, remains an extremely cost-effective preservation and a display service available to the people of our community. An additional focus of our committee is the active investigation of historic settings and, where and when appropriate, formal designation of historic sites and buildings. We're currently surveying and documenting the initial post-World War II housing subdivisions which were built in our community as part of the evolution from a farming ranching setting into the 21st century commercial residential community we are now. When requested, we have partnered with city efforts to recognize specific settings which no longer exist, such as an example is found in the recognition plaque you see demonstrated here and also across the way, which was put in place to recognize the Mori and Toshiro houses that were impacted by the construction of the new roundabout traffic pattern just across from where we're meeting. Since the committee was formed in the city's early years, there have been efforts to capture longtime and important voices of the community in oral history. Unfortunately, our early efforts were not very well advised. Many of the early audio recordings were not well cataloged, were lost, were not preserved, and some of the formats in which they were recorded are antiquated and simply no longer exist. Starting in 2021, the committee adopted new standards for recording oral histories in digital audio and video formats, with transcriptions of each interview and the development of keyword locators to aid people in finding specific content. We're going to continue to add to this new collection at the rate of 2 to 4 oral histories per year. One of our highest profile services to the community comes through our public exhibits. Our display tent at the annual Butlerville Day celebration draws a steady stream of young and old alike. This year's theme was schools throughout the years, with photos ranging from the original Butler School in the 1920s through the construction of the new Brighton High School. The exhibit also highlighted our efforts to have the Butler School Teachers Dormitory included on the National Registry of Historic Places, something we're very, very proud of. Our current exhibit in the foyer of the City Hall features the history of a location we now know as the Old Mill, which shares images from its earliest service as a paper mill, its destruction by fire, its renovation into a dance hall and subsequent haunted house, as well as its current status. When requested by the city, we have offered historical context for specific projects or activities. One of the current projects being studied is a proposal for a monument to be located in the outdoor area at the southeast corner of our City Hall. With a working title of Veterans Monument, this permanent installation would honor those of our community who've served in the nation's military. The monument also has a proposed component to recognize the very unique geologic history of the city between the canyons. Further design study meetings will be held later this month before a proposal is formulated to be submitted to the mayor and council for consideration. Now, history is not just about what you find in grandma's attic. It's actually what's going on around us right now. And so we are initiating efforts to document events and activities now, which will be the history for an unborn generation of Cottonwood Heights residents. An example is the construction of Interstate 215, one of the most powerful transformative infrastructure developments in the story of our community. Knowing the before the construction and the understanding of the long and difficult history of constructing Interstate 215 is a key element of understanding our development, growth, and change as a community. We're also partnering with Brighton High School to involve their urban design students in understanding, development, and building out in our community, as well as chronicling and preserving their history of the origination of the school, its development through the years, and its complete reconstruction, which took place recently. Similar opportunities exist for documenting news chapters of history at Hillside Plaza and the Old Mill. A long-term goal is to fashion an interactive network of information with our surrounding communities to tell a more complete version of the history of our city, the Cottonwood Canyons, and southeastern Salt Lake County. The connections between, say, Brighton and Cottonwood Heights and Murray and Midvale and Holiday are really fascinating to study. Logging, mining, milling, commerce, water management, ranching and farming, the fur industry, all have been connecting tissue between these communities for 150 years. We have a fuller narrative of our human experience when we connect with other communities and tell one story of people and place evolving over time. We've started constructive engagement with the Brighton Town Council's history group and are mentoring their members in archiving and oral history. One day, we hope to be able to link to others, communities, and boost our ability to share our connected histories in southeastern Salt Lake County. With an eye on the clock, I will close. As a committee, we value and are very, very grateful for the city's investment in historical preservation and exhibition, both in dollars, but we're really grateful for the support you lend on a personal level to our work. We feel that we notice it not just at Butlerville Days, but year round. We are grateful for this opportunity to serve the community we call home, and if there are any questions, I will do my best.
Amazing.
What do you guys think? Any questions?
That's be one of the best presentations we've ever had.
Well,
was
we,
awesome.
I had the opportunity to come to a meeting not too long ago and, they actually had one of the teachers over at Brighton High School that was doing the urban design. And, she presented and I could not have left that meeting more impressed with, this committee. And when Ken was reading off who was on the committee and a little bit of their background, it's amazing. The wealth of knowledge that we have, and we're blessed, Ken. So I actually feel bad for Paula because she's gonna have to follow you, and broadcast legend. So sorry, Paula. Anyway, thank you, Ken. Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, well, you'll have to lower your expectations a little bit.
Paul, I was just teasing. They're gonna slam dunk it. So the next committee is our Parks, Trails, and Open Space Committee, and Paula McFarland heads that, and we are thrilled because you are doing just as important work as any other
Yeah.
committee, and we're excited to hear you, and no pressure at all. Okay, so,
I thank you very much. So as Mayor Wicker said, I'm Paula McFarland. I live in District 3 and I'm the current chair of the Parks, Trails, and Open Space Committee. Committee has been up to quite a bit the last few months. I did not provide a bio of our committee members, but bios are available on the Conwood Heights website. We do also have a marvelous group of people, but we've done a lot. And I've gone through this many times and I'm having a hard time staying within 10 minutes. So I'll just move along here and dive right in. So one of the things that the committee has done is back in February, we went through and reviewed the SLEDS ordinance and provided our feedback on that. The committee submitted a letter to the city council with our feedback on that. One of our committee members, Rhonda Cohen, and some other members have started up the Volunteers in Parks program. It's a volunteer program where community members form teams that are assigned to different parks, and they're kind of the eyes and ears of the parks. They look for maintenance issues, pick up trash, listen to concerns of people in the park and report them back to the city to be addressed. We also had the committee spearheaded the park donation program, and that program provides an opportunity for community members to donate items to city parks such as benches, water stations, picnic tables, those kinds of things. It was started as a pilot project with Ferguson Park, and that was really successful. So we're going to be starting up a new program at Anzac Park very soon. Crestwood Park Master Plan update. Back in March, I believe, Dan Sontag and Troy Sanders came. Dan Sontag is with Salt Lake County, and they came out and presented, talked to us about updating the master plan for Crestwood Park and solicited committee feedback on that. They explained the process to us, which would also include public input, open houses, that kind of thing. They came back in June and presented the results of that, and again solicited our feedback on the new Crestwood Park master plan update. New playground designs. Big T Recreation came out and gave us all a presentation on the new playgrounds there at the three parks, Anzac, Bywater, and Mill Hollow. Coincidentally, about that time, the committee was approached by one of our citizens, Jackie Freeman, came and addressed the committee about incorporating inclusive playground equipment into our parks. And she really tugged at our heartstrings. She had a very heart-rending story about her own son going to the parks here in our city and him basically not having access to play amongst the other children. So that is something that the committee was very touched by and will be promoting in the future in our recommendations on parks. Let's see, Golden Hills Park is another area that we looked at this past year. We were asked to provide some ideas and feedback on landscaping, and I had a connection with a company called Arbor Plus, and they graciously, their arborist went up and had a look at the park for us and gave us some feedback. the committee had a little bit of budget, so we engaged them to do park cleanup. They cleaned up the hillside on the eastern part and took out some stray trees that were growing around. So hopefully that made a little bit of an improvement in that park. Okay, more recently, Mike Johnson presented the Little Cottonwood Canyon open space, the preliminary trailhead design. Again, we kind of took a look at that and deliberated and provided him feedback to be presented to you all regarding our preference for that trailhead. The Mount View Pollinator Garden is something that's also kind of near and dear to the committee's heart. That was a brainchild of one of our committee members, and it's been exciting to see that come together and see the design and see how it's been building up. It's something that we want to focus on in the future. We kind of have a vision of that being sort of a place where people can come and really be educated, make it a little showpiece for the city. So we're watching again to see what is put into place this year and what we can do to support that and enhance it. Again, recently, we supported the track funding, the grant proposal for the Highland Drive pedestrian trail. The committee prepared a letter to be submitted along with that grant in support of that project. And I honestly am not sure if that has been approved yet or not, but hopefully it was. Hopefully that was helpful for that project. And finally, we worked on a lot of things, but I guess just to sort of wrap it up, the committee worked with the historical committee on Butlerville Days. We shared the booth. Again, Rana Cohen shared the booth with the historical committee and provided information at the booth. And she also conducted some of the historical walking tours around the city for Butlerville Days. Okay, so looking forward. Oh, I skipped something that's quite important. In February, council member Ellen Burrell approached the committee regarding active transportation and whether or not it's something the committee would like to take on. And enthusiastically, our members did take that on, and we formed a subcommittee to focus on active transportation in the city. The committee's been meeting for a few months and primarily kind of getting their feet on the ground a little bit to see what kind of projects are currently in process, what's in the plan, and just kind of getting the big picture on all of that. They were recently, again, council member Burrell came and talked to the committee about safe systems for all. And this was investigated by the subcommittee and brought to the full committee in our last meeting to see if that's something the committee wanted to support and communicate to you folks our full support of that. And the committee would like to do that. I don't know that I have time to talk about safe systems for all, but I did bring some brochures that I'm happy to pass around but essentially it's traffic calming and just making the streets safer for pedestrians and people in non-motorized transportation. So again, future focus, that subcommittee is looking for new projects to present to the city council to help make our streets safer in the city. Again, Mount View Pollinator Garden, we're kind of waiting to see what ends up happening with current funding and design, and if there's anything further that we can contribute to help with that. Also, there's a new project going on with UDOT and USU. They've joined forces and created a pilot project to install pollinator gardens in different cities around, and that's something the committee is looking at doing to see if there's another spot in our city where that might work. Completion of the Bonneville Shoreline Trail is important to the committee. We're just kind of on hold and waiting for things to kind of break loose in that way, as well as Hillside Plaza, Dover Hill Drive, and the gravel pit developments. Finally, of course, trails. We're very interested in following the progress and supporting in any way we can on the East Jordan Canal Trail, the multi-use trail between Big and Little Cottonwoods, and the Prospector Trail. Also not listed here, but certainly kind of on our radar is the feasibility study of the I-215 pathway corridor. So that's kind of what we've been up to and what we're working on in the future. So
Well, that's amazing, Paula. Thank you. That, any questions, comments from the council?
I have a question. The accessible playgrounds, I find that fascinating and super interesting. I haven't thought about that before. Did they come with specific recommendations on, is it specific types of equipment? Is it, what would that look like?
Yeah, there are specific types of equipment and I didn't bring examples, but I'm happy to follow up with you and let you know a little more about that. But in addition to Jackie coming in and addressing it, again, she shared her personal experience of her son taking him to the playground and there were children kind of playing all around him. And he was sort of there, but kind of excluded from the play. So yes, it is types of equipment, basically in the way that it's set up.
Yeah, that's something I've taken for granted, I guess, because I've never thought about that. That's very interesting.
Next time you're in St. George, take your kids.
Okay.
They have a really good one just on the way out to Santa Clara. It's really amazing. And honestly, Joey's disappointed that we won't be going back to St. George regularly because that's his place to go. He's not disabled, but he loves playing in it just as much as the other kids. But yeah, and it seems like we could probably add some of the items to existing parks. It doesn't have to be an entire park, but and I also know that there are other all ability parks closer than that. That's just the one that I'm most familiar with, but
What kind of makes me feel bad, because I know we put some new equipment in and it makes me think, darn, did we miss that opportunity?
probably a little bit,
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean we can't
Yeah.
find some add-ons or
Improvements.
some other things.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just being able to allow someone on wheels to get to something or to be able to get out and climb up on something.
yeah, very interesting.
So
Yeah, I'd love to communicate to Jackie. We appreciate that. And
Yeah.
we can for sure try and consider something.
I will, I'll let her know. She also, along with her presentation, I think 4 or 5 of her neighbors sent me very heartfelt emails in support of that as well. So they currently live by Mount View and use that park mostly, but
Well, from the list, there was a lot of things. So thank you. You all are very busy and involved and invested, and we couldn't be more grateful. So thank you.
and we've had to update Mountain View with other items in the past. So maybe the next time something like that comes up, you can, that smaller area that's by the basketball court might be a good place to throw in a few of these types
Absolutely.
of items.
Absolutely. Okay, so the next council we have is the Arts Council. So we have our chair, Lara Garcia with us. Come on up, Lara. And it's kind of reminded me of the video that we did when I announced Jeff.
The what?
The video, it just reminded me of the video and announced, and you know, that you did help us with the video.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead. Yeah. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I kept my presentation a little more casual, kind of shooting from the hip, but I'm welcome to any questions.
But don't worry,
Arts are free flowing.
There you go. Okay, so there we go. Yep, very good. I guess I'll start with some data. We just had recently a few terms come up for expiration, and so we've had a smaller group the last several months. Right now we're at 6 members, but we just, I think, approved 2 new members that will be starting soon. So we're excited, and our goal is to end up with 10 by the end of the year. So we're trying to build back up. In fiscal year 2023, we did 12 events serving between 6,000 and 7,000 people in with those events just in that fiscal year. So that was exciting. We installed our first permanent art structure in the city in October of 2022, just right out here, that we love and we're excited about. And I say first because we're hoping that there will be more to come. And we are currently pre-approved for an increase in our ZAP grant by $2,000 for this fiscal year, just based on the number of events we've had and the number of people participating in the revenue. So that's exciting too. I'm just going to start out with one event that I think is the most visible for most people as you walk through the city building is the Artist of the Month event. The goal when we brought this event back after COVID was to provide a free art show to the public that changes monthly and gives artists an opportunity to showcase their work. And we are trying to really incorporate a diverse group of artists, as well as we've tried to mix it up by, like, the February Artist of the Month last year was school kids that wrote letters to the city, which was really fun. It made the news and it was exciting for us. And then this year we're having a traveling museum that's bringing in professional museum pieces twice this year. And we're having Chinese New Year event, and they're going to put their calligraphy on display for one of the months. And the Artist of the Month is always open. We have so much interest that we're already full for 2024, but we're hoping to still incorporate some of the other people that have been interested by maybe sharing a month. And so it's exciting and it's fun. And then our other really big event for the year is always our summer musical. This past year we did Guys and Dolls, which is the first adult show that we had done for many years. Former Mayor Colmore said it was the best musical that the Arts Council has ever done, in his opinion, which was exciting. That was fun to hear. It didn't bring in as much revenue or as many people as normal, just because the family shows, I think, generally bring more people, but we feel like it was a big success. We sold over 1,000 tickets and just had a great experience. It was fun. Yeah, Sean?
Can I just say that the talent that
Yeah.
showed up to do that, I mean, the actors, they were phenomenal.
Yeah, I feel like the quality just keeps going up. I think we're making a good reputation for ourselves in that theater world, because we're getting a lot of high quality people coming to audition. That's fun. We've already decided for 2024, we're going to be doing Beauty and the Beast. So we're going back to a family show for a couple of years, and we want to just kind of switch off between the adult and the family shows. We get a much bigger cast and can include more people when we have the family show. So some other things that we've been working on is to attend existing city events. And the reason for that is just to educate and inform the public about the Arts Council. It's really more of a PR kind of thing. We're not trying to take over any of the city events. We just kind of want to add to them by kind of, handing out this flyer, just telling people that the city has an Arts Council. If they're interested, they don't have to be an artist. We're looking for all kinds of different volunteers. And so some of the events that we've attended this year, Bark in the Park, we'll be attending Light the Heights and Monster Mash next week. I was cutting out bats today for that. So anyway, some of the things that we've been talking about that are in the works is we're hoping to kind of mimic what Holiday City, Midvale, and a lot of other cities that I'm sure you've seen by wrapping some electrical boxes with artwork. That one there in Cottonwood Heights is an example of a location that would just really benefit from that little pop of color and art. So we're really hoping to look into that as an option, as an event, or just as something to use our grant money on in 2024. And the other one is bringing the Mountain View Park wall back to life. I don't know if anyone's been there recently, but this is what the cute tile wall looks like now. It's just sun faded and kind of blank. So
Didn't withstand the weather very long.
it didn't. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't around when they put that in, but
It was worked by fourth graders at the school.
from the school that was there,
It was there.
I saw it.
It was really.
Yeah, I used to take my
really cool.
kids there, and I saw it when it was all colorful and nice, but I don't know what they did that didn't last. So that's sad, but because it was really cute, but we want to revive it, and we don't know what we're gonna do yet. So we're still working on it. But one thing that I'm gonna be calling you because we have talked about keeping the theme to kind of to promote some education on the pollinator garden on that wall. So whatever art we do, we kind of want to tie that in. And
I know originally it was part of a water
the water.
cleanliness program. What is that
It was
the
clean
discharge?
water.
Oh, okay, actually, I remember that now that you
So,
say it, yeah.
You know, that
I forgot
and
about that.
or well, the time with the pollinator type stuff with the
Mhm.
kids would be great.
Yeah,
That's.
we're
right in line
looking
with
at
what it
seeing if,
was.
yeah, we're gonna keep the tile and do something similar, or if we're gonna take the tile out and change it up, but whatever we do, we wanna incorporate the community and the pollination.
We've got a lot of fourth graders.
Yeah, we do. So, yeah, so those are like some of the big things that we're working on that are still in the works that we need to look into more, but some of the other things that are in the works for 2024 or maybe later, the Chinese New Year demonstration. Because our students in Conwood Heights, we do have dual immersion French, but we also have Mandarin up at Ridgecrest and Butler. We think that the Chinese New Year demonstration is going to be a big hit, and we're excited about that. And then we have the traveling museum display, which is something we had to apply for, and we were accepted, and we were really happy to have that because it's an educational opportunity for kids. Another art project with a local school, we worked with Ridgecrest last year, and we'll switch it up this year. Our Sweetheart Paint Night last year was tons of fun, and it was probably our most successful event. So we're going to do something there, possible film festival. We are working with the orchestra director at Butler Middle to organize an adult Conwood Heights orchestra. And he has really big plans for that. And I think that'll be a real big addition to our community. We have the Beauty and the Beast musical, Painting in the Park, which is at Butlerville Days. We've talked about a multicultural festival, a progressive local art studio visit where local artists, and they have their home studios. We can kind of visit studios. Citywide art scavenger hunt, and a plein air competition, which is a nature drawing competition. So they're really popular right now. So these are the things that we're working on and using our grant money for. And so we're excited. Any questions?
Well, I love it. I do have one, actually.
Yeah.
So as far as the musical goes,
Mhm.
so could the city do more? I know we take advantage of the billboard that we can
Yeah.
advertise on and do some things. Could we do more? I would love to increase attendance and then expose more kids. Maybe, I know I've wondered about cost. You know, I wonder if I know that it raises some money for us, but I wonder if we could, you know, let kids in free and try to get more kids. Anyway, I don't know, maybe that's something to talk about over
Yeah.
here. I would love to see the entire community come and see these great actors and plays.
Yeah, we would love that too. We do talk about that kind of thing, how we can do that. We're sometimes restricted on the way that the company we use to sell tickets, they restrict how many like free tickets we can give away and stuff. And we're considering not using that anymore and just doing walk-up tickets. Then we'll have more freedom to do things just like what you mentioned.
Okay.
So yeah, we are looking into those things. And if anything comes up, we will definitely let you know.
Is that something that Canyon School District would collaborate or help coordinate, incentivizing students to?
We
You know.
advertise like on Peach Jar, so all the district they get our advertisement for auditions and for ticket sales, but I don't know about a collaboration with having their students. I don't know, other than advertising, what we can do to collaborate with them.
First come, first served, in a limited number of block of
Yeah.
tickets, but I agree with the mayor. I mean, the events that I've gone to in the last year and a half have been extraordinary.
Mhm.
Your woodwind group.
Yeah.
And it's just a shame that there's an empty seat, because it's just so fantastic.
Yeah, we're trying to really hone in on what our community seems to respond to and just have less events that are higher quality and that we can reach more people. So yeah, I agree that that's what we're trying to do. And we're working on all the different marketing. Marketing is always a challenge.
Arts Council has done a really good job of keeping costs down. And if you go to the events where the plays and things where the young people go, there's quite a few more. It's just having the adults to get them out. to come to the events, but
Mhm.
they've done a really good job of holding those costs down, having free tickets under a certain age, because we know most of them would be running the aisles. So, it's something that they've worked on for a long time and still working to find ways to make it better. And then, as Laura said, to find ways to pull people in, because you can market all you want, but until you get interest, especially when people have, now late night soccer and basketball and everything else with their kids. Sometimes it's hard to pull folks in.
Yeah. We have some of those challenges, but yeah, we're trying to hone in on what our community seems to be responding to and give them those events. So,
Love it. Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Laura.
Yeah,
Appreciate
sure.
you coming in.
yeah.
Thanks for all you
absolutely.
do. Appreciate
Thanks for
it.
all your support. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, so one of the most important committees we have is our planning commission. So Dan Mills, the chair, is here with us. And anyway, thank you, Dan, for being here.
No,
And we'll let you give a presentation or however you want to go about it. Let's do it.
You get a lot of slides, so I think our committee is a little bit unique in the sense that you're very familiar with the things that we do, because most of the things, not all, but almost everything that we do eventually ends up on your table, or there are things that you have instructed us to do. We are working hard to figure out a way that we can forbid pickleball forever, obviously. And for the public, we are very anxious to make sure that we find a way to help all of our residents, and these are such difficult things. We as a planning commission look through the lens in almost everything we do, trying to make it more livable, to give people as many property rights as we possibly can, but being sensitive to the fact that what we do on our property does affect those around us. And let me just express on behalf of all 8 of us the gratitude we have for the staff and for the elected leaders. We are grateful for the forward thinking and the visionary thinking. We feel very strongly that as a planning commission, we're standing on the shoulders of those who have come before us, and many lessons have been learned, positive and negative, in the city since its inception, and even from the unincorporated Salt Lake County days. And we revisit those things regularly. Sometimes we're the beneficiaries of those lessons, and sometimes we are having to learn hard lessons ourselves even now. And so as I look at the things that we've faced most recently and the things that you put before us, we are anxious to be aspirationally providing you with information at the rate and in the level of detail that you need. We're grateful most recently for the work that we did together on the sleds ordinance, and we realized that there was going to be some significant engagement, and we saw a degree of that with our group a year ago, but that even predated our group with previous city councils and previous staff. So as those ebbs and flows, and we try to take in public comments and we try to look at best practices. We had an enormous amount of engagement with every single member of our planning commission, and just in terms of kind of what's under the hood, because you're not seeing the day-to-day operation. Our deliberations allow for a desire for consensus, but a lot of diversity of opinions. And if you look at the charge for the planning commission, this is just a good thing for you to be reminded of, and for our citizenry to hear again. The planning commission was created to represent the concerns of diverse citizen groups and the broad interests of the community as a whole. It makes recommendations to the city council on legislative land use decisions, including property rezoning and ordinance changes. It also grants final approval of conditional use permits, site plan approvals, and subdivisions. So as we look at legislative opportunities, and you're going to entertain one of them that we've been working on our plate, and staff much longer than that, with Adam and the rest of the team, the transportation master plan. And as we're very grateful that we're looking for the opportunities for federal monies and looking at level of service and how people's experience in a vehicle is experienced in our city. We're also grateful for perspectives like Council Member Burrell talking about walkability and bikeability, as we as a group, the 8 of us, talk to our specific constituencies. It's amazing the vast number of people that want us to run towards those opportunities. So as we look for grant money and opportunities, I think you'll see in the presentation that it would be crazy not to look at the level of service model, but as we slowly work towards other ways to make sure that we're enhancing the experience of people that live here, not just people that might be traveling through here. And, you know, the horrible situation last night with a poor 12-year-old child, and, you know, I don't know what the solution is there. I don't, you know, I think it's a complicated circumstance, but as we look at what pedestrian experiences are here, we as a planning commission are incredibly supportive of staff and the council to try to find ways to make sure that when you live here, that we're seeking for people that are coming here to live, that are coming to visit the people who live here, and coming here hopefully to spend a boatload of money, that they all have a good experience, maybe a little less concern for people who are just passing through. And in that same vein, we have recently asked staff to go through the record of decision and for us to be a little bit of your eyes and ears a little bit, because there have been some changes that have been made. And as we look at opportunities maybe to clean up what we had envisioned, we have a Wasatch Boulevard plan that came from Cottonwood Heights, but we want to make sure that it speaks a little bit to what has maybe been imposed on us a little bit by UDOT, and see if there might be opportunities as these projects progress over the next 20 years to look at where the next big decision points are, where we might need to be ready with data, ready with opinions, or ready to engage. And the opportunity to address the push-pull that happens inevitably with UDOT, I think, and I'm grateful that I know that we engage them at your level and with staff in lots of different ways, but I think we can make sure that that is standardized. We also look at the large opportunities for us to develop the city, and the Planning Commission is so excited about the very, very aggressive opportunity to take at Town Center. As we looked at that spot and the number of times that that's been brought up as people join the Planning Commission, that has been brought up almost every time in quiet conversation. What are the opportunities there? And so with this, the lead of the city council and the mayor and the staff, I think there's a lot of support. In that same vein, we are working on form-based code, so we are going to be reviewing that. We've had a couple of bites at the apple already, and as staff has taken our input, and it's a large project. We are excited about that work, and that will not necessarily predate what happens with the town center, but they will inform one another, and I fully expect that we will see those work together, as well as the Fort Union master plan. We understand as a planning commission the need that we're kind of layering things, and this is not necessarily going to be a linear process, but I want you to know that every time we've looked at those projects on Fort Union Boulevard, we address the Fort Union master plan, and Mike will tell you that I hit that key early and often, that we expect developers to adapt to the Fort Union master plan, and even if it means we have a beautiful super wide sidewalk and trees and everything that we expect from them, and it only lasts for 70 feet, we will take it. And so I always point out when we interface with the public that we are trying as a city to implement as many of these things as we possibly can. The last thing I would tell you is that as we look at the group and the collaboration that we have with the city council, we are anxious to make sure that we have the level of communication, the level of information that you're looking for. And so we are a very, very, it's a unique set of backgrounds in terms of people that have lived here for many, many years, and people who have been transplanted from other communities around the country. And we, again, aspirationally are hopeful that we will be standing on the shoulders collectively, staff, the council, and the planning commission, and looking for best practices. That we are, when we have people that come to the microphone and are hearkening for 1950 to come back, we hope that there's some visionary opportunities to see what Cottonwood Heights could be. And we are excited to partner with you and looking forward to what that can be. And with that, I would love your comments, your questions, or any feedback I can take back to the planning commission.
Well, thank you, Dan. Anybody want to jump in?
No, thank you for all you do.
It's one of the toughest ones, so
Yeah.
really a lot of emotions, a lot of opinions too, so.
So we did a joint council planning session, or planning commission meeting. Oh, maybe a year ago. Has it been a year, maybe?
Yeah, you're
And I
going.
think that's something we work on, maybe bringing back and doing again, because I agree with you on collaboration, and being and make sure that we're on the same page and absolutely love it. So, but thanks, Dan. I know it's, it's a big lift and I think Matt said it right. It's not the easiest of jobs, but thanks for all you guys do and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, so the last council or committee that we're going to talk about or have presented will come from our very own council member Scott Bracken, who leads our youth city council, which is to me a really, really awesome opportunity to teach our youth about government, municipal government specifically. So Scott, we'll turn the time over to you.
No, you started very formal and nice, and you're getting more casual and casual and casual as it goes on. I've reported a number of times in my in the regular meeting on what the youth council does. As an overview, we typically recruit and have a new group of students that will be in high school the next school year. We start that recruitment process in March and April so that we can have them come, get to know each other a little bit and elect new officers and have those in place before summer. And the reason of that is really driven by Butlerville Days. And this year I tracked almost 200 hours of volunteer hours that were put in by the youth council at Butlerville Days, at either the parade or in the booths, wiping tables, helping with bingo, all those types of things. They enjoy it. And Anne had mentioned Ann Etchell are, they did an exceptionally good job this year. That was very good to hear. The first thing that we had done this year was we had last year's group and this year's group both involved with the Easter egg ice skating. There was a lot of snow still left on the ground that morning. It disappeared by the afternoon, but the eggs were gone. Eggs and candy were gone by 10:06, I believe was what. It doesn't take very long for them to disappear. Our elections are the first part of May again, so that we can have things put together. This year, we do have a smaller group, but it has been advantageous in that we can fit them all into the 15-passenger SWAT van and go places. We were invited up to a building bridges panel that had Galen Benyon and a couple of other legislators. It was actually put together by a student from it's not Juan Diego, that's in Draper, downtown. There we go. And anyway, they invited, we went down as a group and listened to them talk about what the way the legislature works, some of the things they were working on. There were 3 or 4 schools involved. We had our planning department come in and talk about general plan things, stuff that goes on with the planning commission. We've had Ann Etchell come in each year. Just she coordinates so much that goes with the youth. It's good for them to get to know her. We did clean up on the big Cottonwood Canyon Trail. We start at the top and just kind of grab bags and go down and usually get quite a bit of just stuff up off the trail, and it's a nice walk. We have social activities. We've had a barbecue. We've had a pool party. We went bowling. They put in time ushering at the Guys and Dolls. We finally made it out to Beck this year. We've never been able to do that because I don't have transportation for 30 kids, but for 15, I can do that. It was good to go out there and see the way our emergency call taking takes place. And then we were at the block party with the Cottonwood Heights Business Association, and we had one of our officers come in and give us a pretty comprehensive overview of our police department, the various opportunities, divisions, specialties that are in there, and they were able to ask some good questions. We will be doing Monster Mash coming up. We typically have the day of the legislature at the end of January. That we will be taking the kids up to that with the Utah League of Cities and Towns. We have a parents' night coming up that actually lets the parents know what we've been doing, what we will be doing. We typically, there's a nominal fee that the kids will pay to help and to go to the day of the legislature. And then there's also a trip for the Association of Youth Councils in Utah at Utah State in March. Where they'll get, the last couple of years, they've done 2 sessions, and each session has usually about 200 students from all over the state, from a dozen different municipalities that all get together and do the same types of things where they're learning about leadership, learning about government. We tend to focus 1 out of every 3 meetings on some sort of education, whether that's having our finance people come in or planning or the police, fire, whatever it is. We'll do socials, and then the other part of it is our service. That model has worked really, really well for us. I think since this was started on the idea of 3 high school students in 2005, I'd expect we probably have well over 400 students go through the process. I know that I've been getting at it for a while. This year, I believe, is the first year that none of the members were born prior to incorporation. And so that's just what it is. But we do have a good group of kids. Next time you'll probably see them is at Monster Mash. But we do need to schedule a dinner with the mayor. They're going to want to do that with the council. Probably sometime in January, February, but we have a planning night coming up to take care of that as well.
Well, thank you, Scott. We couldn't, I don't think we can thank you enough. I know personally you've influenced a lot of young lives to learn and be involved and you know, in municipal government. So this has been a passion of yours, and I can't thank you more for your dedication to it. So thanks.
I did let Tim know that I will continue at the bare minimum through this year's group. I didn't feel like leaving them halfway through would be appropriate. And so what happens past then, we'll see. But
I think it'd be great to honor that. So yep, awesome. Okay, well, let me just end this little segment with it's amazing how many people are willing to volunteer. Is it not? Just this city doesn't accomplish half of what it does without these amazing people who are willing to spend hours and upon hours to make this city a better place. And I could not just, you know, I love this day every year that we look forward to it, and to get to say thank you to people who dedicate time and resources, and goodness gracious. Anyway, thank you again for all you all do. Okay, item B on our staff report we'll move to is a transportation master plan discussion. So we'll have Matt Shipp. I know you've got Adam here too, so we'll have you kind of lead this discussion. Yeah.
Okay. I will kind of introduce it and then turn it over to Adam. He's got a little presentation he'd like to share with the council and the mayor. So this is the transportation master plan. We're bringing it back to you. We've been working on it for a little over a year or so. And the transportation master plan is really what it states. It's for the, you know, where we can improve areas in our city on transportation for future planning based on our growth or our zoning areas, the traffic that would happen in there in those locations. And this is looking further down the road as developments come in or as projects come in, we're able to build to our the plans that we have adopted. So part of these adopted plans is the transportation master plan. We went to planning commission at the last planning commission meeting. They held the public hearing and two of them, two planning commissions ago, they held a public hearing and then they reviewed it at the last planning commission and it was unanimously approved to bring to the city council for your review. We are at this point now for you to give input again, if you'd like. And we'll take that input and then if we can incorporate, we can. And we will then bring it back for public comment and then for adoption following that. So with that, I'll turn the time over to Adam and let him go through this and then we can answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So this presentation is kind of, so we've done multiple presentations. This one is more of hitting like the main points of the master plan. Just a little background. In 2019, the city did a transportation capital facility plan. The primary purpose of that was to determine whether any of the roads were eligible for impact fees.
What did you call that plan? Sorry.
It was called the Transportation Capital Facilities Plan. So that was the one that was done back in 2019. And that was a 10-year plan. And its purpose was to assess whether any of the roads were eligible for impact fees. The results of that plan did not find any significant growth that was going to require or provide, significant impact fees for the city. The 2023 Transportation Master Plan takes that original plan and its 10-year model, and it expands it out to 50. So, which is a 30-year model. And then the Transportation Master Plan also incorporates other approved master plans that have been previously done by the city. So those would include the Fort Union Boulevard Master Plan, the Gravel Pit Master Plan, the Mid-Valley Active Transportation Plan, and the Cottonwood Heights Pedestrian Trails Master Plan. Now, we've kind of talked about the goals of the master plan. I'll really quickly, the goals are to improve active transportation networks, to identify future projects that would improve pedestrian safety, walkability, and traffic flow, and to identify solutions to accommodate future growth, road safety, and road classification. That would be in reference to the cross sections for the different categories of roads.
I'm so sorry to interrupt
Yes,
you, but
absolutely.
I really need the point of clarification. The master plan that I've been studying and working off of is dated March 30th, 2023.
Yeah.
I noticed this was dated now. So is this a revised transportation plan from the March 30th?
It is not. So the Transportation Master Plan that was presented to council in March is the same one that we currently, is this plan right here, which is March 30th. The date is just the presentation.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, so really quickly, I'm gonna touch on the model, the cross sections, and then also the active transportation elements of the plan. The first is the cross sections of roads. So Cottonwood Heights has a number of different classifications of 4 different roads in the city. You have your local road, you have a collector or an urban collector road, you have the arterial roads, and then also Fort Union Boulevard, you will notice, has its own specific classification or cross section, and that's due to the Fort Union Boulevard Master Plan. These widths are the widths of the cross section, which includes the roadway, the bike lane, the curb and gutter, the park strip, and the sidewalk. These were adopted by City Council back in 2022.
Before you
Yeah.
leave that slide, if I'm not mistaken, Fort Union Boulevard has, in much of its stretch, certainly the commercial stretch, 2 lanes in either direction with a median, center median. So what it has now, you would consider to be an urban core arterial?
Fort Union Boulevard would be classified as an urban core arterial, yes. And then it has its own specific cross section because of its unique pedestrian trail and based off the map.
So we aspire one day to have it, what you see here, either 3-lane or 5-lane, and the 5-lane would be with 4 off-street cycle track.
Yes, so there's 2 specific cross sections for Fort Union. East of 30th East, so from 30th East to Wasatch Boulevard is the 3-lane cross section. And west of 30th East down to 1300 East is the 5-lane cross section. So 2 lanes in each direction and then a center turn lane. And then it also includes the cycle track. We can quickly go through the different cross sections. So, well, this is the existing roadway network. You can see Fort Union in green has been identified as an urban core arterial. 5-lane and then 3-lane. The orange are the collectors, and those are primarily 2-lane and 3-lane. And the other urban core arterial roads are Highland Drive and Union Park Avenue. Really quickly, we'll go through the different cross sections. This is the local road. So this is every road that's not a collector or arterial. And this is what was adopted by the council back in 2022. As we go to the collector, you'll see that there is the 2-lane is on top and the 3-lane is on bottom. The 2-lane on the left is with parking, and on the right, it's with a bike lane and no parking. So you can see 11-foot travel lanes and parking in the shoulder, or a bike lane with a 3-foot shoulder. And those cross sections are all 66 feet.
Is there, if I may, and I don't know if this is the appropriate time to ask this, but are we aspiring to where there are bike lanes prohibit parking along those curbs? It's one of the challenges for creating a walkability in our city, that we're inconsistent throughout the city.
Yeah, the planning commission had the same question about bike lanes and parking, and my understanding is that the city code does not prohibit parking in a bike lane. It's something that the council could, look at, is whether or not parking in a bike lane should be exclusive uses, or whether they should be, whether if there is a bike lane, whether you should restrict parking.
Do we know what the best practices are used, for instance, in Salt Lake City proper in this regard?
I don't have the specific information on that, but I know that some cities do have that code where it is illegal to park in a bike lane. I don't know which ones, I could look into it, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think that to achieve the walkability, we're gonna need to have a conformity and an expectation for cyclists, so that they can be safe and they don't have to weave in and out of traffic. Although we know that motorists are to give 3 feet to any cyclist, no matter where they are located in any given roadway. And I think these kind of fine points are what's going to take us from our current situation of unsafe roads for active transportation to the level that we will get more participation from our citizens in that.
So I was in Arkansas over the last few weeks and actually saw the real application of street parking with a dedicated bike lane to the inside of the parking. And I've heard about this before.
On the driver's side of the car.
On the
Passenger
passenger side.
So they actually act as a barrier to
Yes.
help protect the
Yes.
cyclists.
That would be what pretty much a cycle track is, a bike lane that's off the road. So the difference between a cycle track and a trail is a trail has both directions on one side. The cycle track is the bike lane outside of the road. So you have a physical barrier, whether that's a vertical barrier or a horizontal one, like a curb. And so that puts it outside of the parking. You have your parking, the curb, and then the trail.
Which is
Although
probably the
what
safest.
the mayor, I think, is pointing out is that cars are a great barrier. I mean, really, cars provide a safety
Yeah.
element.
And I have to be honest, I'm a visual person. So when I first heard that, I thought, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, but seeing it. And the real life cars parking and like she said, they end up as a barrier.
Yeah.
And having the, to the, anyway, I think it's something we should.
One example is the northern gravel pit, the Rockworth project will have that in it. That's in their approved.
How
plan.
wide of a road would you need to pull that off?
That's.
Well,
Yeah, no, exactly.
It has to be wide. There, I think second west here in Salt Lake, there's a section that has that as well.
Because that has to be the safest option. for sure.
Does 66 feet cut it? Well, 66 feet, if you have 3 lanes, it leaves. No, with 2. So there's a couple, we have a couple 66-foot wide
2 lanes in a median.
local areas.
Or
Well, if you did, you can see, I think actually,
The top is your 66 foot.
so if we look at Fort Union, which is this one right here, you can see the bike lane is with all these travel lanes, you can see the bike lane outside of the park strip. So this is
96 feet.
Yeah, and so you could definitely, if you were only doing, we'd have to look and see specifically what the width is. How wide is your parking? Parking is 6 feet if you're including the curb and gutter. Because 2 feet, if you're not, well, it should be 8 feet. 8 feet. Yeah, but 6 feet, and then you can use the curb for 2.
But you screw these together on a slower traffic road, you'd have room on one side to put parking and then the bike. Because you got 12 feet in that center lane, you have to shrink off.
Yeah, so let me go back just so we're not missing anything. So this is the collector. Most of the roads from 2300 East to Danish to Bengal all fall under this designation. We have the urban arterial, the roads that are listed as that would be 1300 East and Wasatch. This is a 75-foot right of way with a bike lane and no parking. So you have your 5-foot bike lane and then a 3-foot buffer. It's like a hatched buffer that separates the bike lane from the traffic.
I mean, I'll be honest, what the roads I was specifically inquiring about would be ones like Nantucket,
Yes.
Bywater, Greenfield. Those are some they're a little bit overly wide for your standard local road.
Absolutely.
And if you could put that on one side or the other, that would be both calming
And those
and
those specific roads are, those would be involved in a specific design that could kind of retrofit because it has such a large asphalt. There's a lot of opportunity to do, a different design on those type of roads that were designed as a collector, but their actual use is as a local road.
so the cyclability and
Yeah.
being able to get through town could be improved.
Can I ask
A few of those.
Oh, go ahead. Could I ask you what your thoughts are on, so Fort Union Boulevard is both a 5-lane urban arterial and a 3-lane.
And
That
so-
starts at about 30th. Yeah.
Correct.
So one of the things that I think will bring success to Hillside is to lessen to bring down speed and design all the way down to 23rd East. Do you think, and I'd like the council's input, if we brought that 3-lane arterial all the way down to 23rd East. I've never seen that traffic other than ski days is the only time that I ever see traffic there. But any major concerns, council, do you have any issues with that? Or thoughts?
I was just looking, I thought I saw a map that was talking about the traffic counts and I mean, it really, you just want it to be able to flow. I mean, we certainly gotten some feedback from restricting 3 lanes to 2 on northbound Highland Drive. And although people overall get through it quicker, that is absolutely not the perception that's there. We just have, that's where you'd have to just look, is just to make sure we can still get get the people through there. It may very well be possible. That's a traffic engineer question.
Yeah,
Can we get the 12,000 or the 15,000?
I wanted to bring it up because I honestly
Yeah.
think as we redo Hillside, the traffic and fast cars there.
If you're encouraging people, which I think we are, to walk there from the local communities and such, making sure that it's safe for them to do so. And not,
They can still drive to it, but
yeah. Yeah.
but the speed and design of that road to that, to me, would make.
Traffic, yeah, your traffic volumes do drop off after you start dropping off after you pass Hillside, you go into residence.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not it's something we can definitely look at. For these purposes, I mean, this is as simple as if you want to discuss, do we want to extend that cross section, that urban core arterial 3-lane? And where do we want to extend it to?
It
And
starts at
that's-
30th East, right?
It starts about 30th East, yeah, it starts to tie in. Now, if you'll look at that at about 30th, you'll notice you're on the top, you're looking east through this, if you were looking this way. On the left-hand side or the north side, that's the trail project that we just got funding for. Well, in 2 years, it becomes available. And that's why this cross section looks the way it does. It's a huge, you can see it's 20+ feet to the north. And it goes down to, roughly 30th East. Well, probably not that far, but it comes down a ways, and we can extend that. There are some challenges, design challenges and existing, but we can utilize the existing right of way for these types of what you're talking about, for sure. But yeah, we would definitely want to see the volumes and see. I believe, Adam, I don't know, a 3-lane road, they cut it off at what, how many thousand? 15, 18, somewhere, I don't remember.
We have,
Just say page 55 on your PDF.
so
actually has
3
our
lanes.
numbers.
Yeah, about 15,000.
What you see right here is the level of service. And this is not a detail, this is not coming from detailed model. This is just looking 10,000 feet in the sky at roads. And for the max for an arterial, for 2 lanes is 13,400.
What is
3
that
lanes.
metric per?
So
day?
that's volume of cars per day.
That's ADT.
ADT,
Average
average
daily
daily traffic.
Okay, yeah.
So Fort Union's hovering around that area. It gets less as you go further east. But I would recommend, as the development happens, to do what's called a synchro model, which is a detailed traffic analysis of the movements of the cars. And then you would be able to see what the impact would be going down.
Do you have this plan on the computer?
This transportation.
Or you can keep that there, just in the plan, again, page 55, I finally
I
found
do
it.
have that, yeah.
East of 30th East, the ADT on Fort Union is 13.9. I'll go back to that page you had up is really,
Go back to your volume, Adam.
yeah, at least the 10,000 foot level. When you go west of that, down to 27th East is 20,000. You go a little bit further, it's 21, down to 23rd East, it gets up to 25,000. So we're above those for the 3-lane as is. But again, these are high level marks.
Yeah.
They're
So you'd have to do detailed traffic.
Well, you need to look at the intersections to see
Right,
what
and
kind of delay is happening at the intersections. This is just the roads, and it's like how many cars can you fit on the road before it all falls apart?
Yeah.
So
Taylorsville.
but the intersections where they will measure the seconds of delay at each cycle.
Taylorsville took their section between 215 and 5300 south and increased the throughput by 30% without adding a square inch of asphalt. And they did it by controlling the conflict points and the intersections and taking those down and just improving. So while those are numbers and these are all higher than that, it doesn't make it impossible. It just means you have to be really, you do have to look at it.
Well, and I would also point out that we have a real opportunity in Cottonwood Heights, because if you think as a bird looking down on Cottonwood Heights, well, and here, actually, it's not just the right time. When you think about when there are commuters, trying to get into their neighborhoods, they are likely coming off the I-215. And if they know that they have a slow section in the middle of Fort Union Boulevard based on fewer lanes and slower speeds, they will likely think about how they flow to get to their homes, whether they live to the southwest or to the southeast. And then they'll use 3000 East versus maybe they've in the past said, oh, well, I just come down on Fort Union, I go ripping across to get to where I live. Oh, well, now it's slower here. It may take a little time for people to build new habits, but there's no reason why that shouldn't be factored in as we consider
One
what
thing
the
to think,
mayor is advocating.
one thing to think about as well, though, and I don't know how this would impact, but a lot of residents do complain about traffic cutting around where it's busy and it's slow and going through residential neighborhoods at higher speed.
Well, that's why we need to go for 20 is plenty, like Salt Lake City did. You want to make it so that the residents realize that safety comes before their convenience.
I understand. I just know that as you do make those points a little more difficult, it does push those
No, I
cars
think
into
that's
some
very
neighborhoods,
balanced. I think.
which I've had a lot of residents have a lot of serious issues with that.
So can you incorporate traffic studies to see where you think people might do that?
We can bring that back to you, the
Okay.
proposal for that.
We've done them. I sat out with Doug and did one
Yeah,
that was a concern there.
right behind Whole Foods, right? Yeah.
Yes. Okay, I also have done 3 others in Cottonwood Heights that I used in my master's research project on what the amount of cut through traffic on a local street is. And I told Doug it's gonna be 12 to 18% because that's what it has been everywhere else. And we did at that time when you were out there with us, and I went through and I counted every single one, and it was the exact same numbers.
Yeah, and this is.
The perception is it's usually worse.
Uh-huh.
And it's more than it actually is, but for people's perception is also what they're dealing with, and so a lot of traffic is also the educational and getting people's perception to match what's actually going on, so that they understand that they're not expecting 15 when they're getting 25.
Mayor, I think what you're asking though is
the
basically
hardest-
what Adam described, where they're dropping off on Fort Union. So we can look at how far we can move the line down.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm understanding? Okay,
Yeah,
and we'll
Well, as far as the hillside, it makes sense to really seriously look at that intersection and
Yeah.
see.
yeah, I would agree.
Okay,
Those numbers are also just right at the borderline of what I understand roundabouts are, so that would be tricky.
so that's the roadway cross section. The next section is the active transportation project. Really quickly to give you an overview of the types of transportation facilities, there are, according to ASHTO, there are 3 levels of different types of active transportation. Level 1 is a grade separated trail or path from the roadway with a physical barrier. So that would be like a cycle track or a trail. The picture that we have right here of a level 1 facility is on Fort Union Boulevard. This is what's identified in the Fort Union Boulevard master plan and the cross section, the transportation master plan's cross section. And it shows a sidewalk and a cycle track or pedestrian path. Level 2 is the bike lane on the roadway separated by striping. That's the middle one, and the buffered bike lane is what's shown in these cross sections on the collector roads. You have a 2 or 3 foot buffer between the travel lane and the bike lane. And there are some examples of this in the city, Bengal Boulevard and 2300 East. We both have buffered bike lanes on those roadways. Oops. And the third one
Just
is,
real quick on level 2, can you,
yes,
what we were talking about, flip flop the bike lane and the parking without too much trouble, because that still counts as a level two?
If there's room, you can, there
I
are
mean, let's
different,
assume that one, if you flip those,
Huh.
does that change it from a level two to a level one?
I believe it would, I honestly, I think it would stay a level two, but because it's still on the roadway. But if you had a curb separating from the parking to the path, then it would be a level one, because has to have a physical barrier to be separated.
Cars don't count.
Is it,
Well, they're temporary. I mean, maybe they do. I don't know.
I'm wondering if we
Yeah.
could also check with NACTO recommendations, because I think the National
Yes.
Association of City Transportation Officials, shall we just say, is a little more nuanced than ASHTO, which of course is all about highways, and so.
And these photos do come from NACTO, the level two
You
one.
said, you said there was MASHTO.
Well, they both use the same basic designation.
Designations.
They're both using
Designated.
level 1, 2, and 3. Actually, ASHTO used to call it a bike type 1, type 2. So I think this it matches kind of what NACTO is. In fact, these photos did come from NACTO.
I was just asking Mike this question, but as we add more of these lanes and sidewalks, how does it impact the maintenance during the winter? So if we're adding all of this, is that now the residents, their job to clear that of snow, just like your traditional neighborhood sidewalk?
That is a good discussion. The sidewalks are responsibility of the adjacent property owner.
Okay,
If
so those,
they have access to them.
okay,
The cycle track we haven't discussed because that's added as a city portion. So there are some.
So even a 10-foot wide multi-use sidewalk like this one, if it went in front of a private homeowner, they would be responsible for a 10-foot swap.
Typically, what we would do is
Interesting.
maintain.
It's just
the
like you
trail.
park the road and your sidewalk, it'd be the same thing.
Yeah.
so when it happens, do we go knock on the door, say, hey, congratulations? We've got this, and also we'd like you to shovel this during the winter.
Typically, if it's a connecting trail, though, we take care of that. And the
This
cycle
instance
track-
right here,
th- this
those
is-
condos, row homes, right, what do you want to call them?
Yeah.
They have to
Technically,
maintain it.
they have to maintain it, the whole thing. Yeah.
Interesting.
So I would expect that whoever does their property maintenance should be aware of that.
Sure.
Know whenever they're plowing their parking lot or whatever and pushing snow around, they also need to pop out and take care of now the city has taken responsibility of a few sidewalks that were on safe routes to school, the bottom of Bengal, which is way down the hill and around from some of the things. There's a couple of the city up there by Butler.
One more question.
Oh, may I just want to reinforce what Council Member Holton
Yeah,
brought up, because it really is pivotal. And that is, we can envision all these lovely things, but we need to be thinking about O&M. We need to be thinking about how do we maintain these things? Because anybody that gets out, if they're a pedestrian, and especially at intersections, they suddenly come to a mound of snow. And I've seen it in the wintertime. It's something that will take more manpower. And
Matt's got a lot
public
of
works will
guys.
need that, within their budget. So I really appreciate. you
well, one
bringing that
other
up.
question as well is I know that when we had that big storm, we learned, or I guess I should say I learned, that if the dirt underneath goes out or there's some issue with the sidewalk, that it is up to the resident to fix. So this, for instance, this example on number one, if there, for some reason it cracks, breaks, it's also another thing where we've put this thing in without really telling them that we're doing it. But as soon as it's in, they have to maintain it during the winter. And then if it breaks, they have to fix it.
Yeah.
That
There's
is
some-
fascinating.
Yeah, that's
Well,
the point on
I
these
know,
two,
that's
though,
fascinating though.
these ones on 4 Union were part of the redevelopment. So that was part of their
Of
requirement, was
their-
to build it. It wasn't like they were there and we came in. And
Yeah,
built it
yeah,
out.
that's a unique example for sure.
We're at the very beginning of that process, because we only have those, you can see the little orange hash lines there on 4 Union. We only have the
That little
two
dot
very
right
limited
there.
areas that have this, so it's certainly something we need to be aware of, but it's a little different in the two cases where we have it, where that was part of their development requirement from the get-go.
It does
Yeah.
come across, but
So how it
it's
feels.
pretty, as I understand it, is still pretty broadly accepted those are when we looked at that, we're like, really, that's what the vast majority of all cities do everywhere. They have people, they have people clearing their sidewalks and that they're liable for stuff. It's something, often it's a right of way across there and that. I mean, you can certainly change city policy and fund fixing those things, but they.
Get 100 snow shovelers, yeah.
Well, no, I mean, even some of those other things, but that's a huge ticket item.
My only point bringing it up is just
Yeah.
educating those people that is obviously what's happening. These folks have an HOA, so I think it's a little different, but.
There are some private driveways, you're absolutely right, on Fort Union Boulevard, private homes that
Yeah.
intersperse right now.
Mhm.
But, down, sorry, it just scribbled right out the back of my head, so.
So,
Anyway,
so this map right here, this is the existing active transportation in the city today. You can see the multi-use path would be Big Conroe Canyon Trail, buffered bike lanes, and shared roadways, or sharrows, as they're called. The proposed active transportation, this is not all of the pedestrian projects that are recommended. These projects come from a previous master plan, the Mid-Valley Active Transportation Plan. In that plan, it recommends a multi-use path on Fort Union Boulevard, improvements on Danish Road, improvements on Wasatch Boulevard, improvements on Dangle Boulevard. So this is what has been proposed. We haven't made changes because it was already part of an existing master plan. And then I guess there is a full list in the report as well of additional pedestrian projects.
Before you
Yes.
go back. This is one thing that, I think I went to the PTOS committee last February, and because Ellen had come up getting neighborhood byways, to start connecting some of these things, because you've got Bywater that goes through there, that would be, there are ways, there are chunks. This is a great backbone, but to expand out,
Yes.
utilizing places like Nantucket, Bywater, well, you actually got Greenfield Park. So that someone that is on a bicycle or a scooter could have signage that says, hey, you don't want to go down Fort Union Boulevard to get from Wasatch Boulevard to Super Target.
Well,
Take these alternative routes.
so this pales by comparison. I'm hoping that I can get a little more support to get better graphics for this sort of thing, but there's many of us that have been working on neighborhood byways that keep people off of these unsafe arterials and collectors. Because even though we say we have things like buffered bike lane, the speed of the vehicles on any of these given collectors and arterials, according to the Federal Highway Administration, our vehicles are moving too fast to have unprotected, because only a hard skate bike lane would be sufficient related to the speeds on our collectors and arterials. So I know that the PTOS subcommittee on active transportation is working on identifying where citizens who want to walk and roll can move about the city, staying off of Bengal and Fort Union and Creek and 2300 East and so forth. But we still need safe ways to get across. We have some things going, but crosswalks are only safe when vehicles are slowed down. Until there's the political will to accept that a vehicle, and then this is from the Federal Highway Administration's own metrics. This isn't the world according to Ellen. And they are very clear that if a motorist can't come to an immediate stop, then there should not be unprotected humans, especially thinking that they're in a crosswalk where they'll be safe. And we know that it's tragic, the number of pedestrians that are getting struck in our crosswalks, and we must slow down vehicles on either side, not just have flashing lights when they're, going through our city at 35 and 40 and plus miles an hour. So I just brought this along. I knew that we'd at some point be talking about the backbone. And the backbone concept, we're decades away from having safe collectors and arterials that are connected. And so I hope that we can really
What are the push pins?
Some of the push pins represent either parks, schools, commercial areas.
The destinations, a point A to point B, someplace where
So
someone wants to
these,
go.
you know, I'm in the process of taking these out, but I think it's a good exercise, and I did bring colored pins with me if anybody wants to go through and really contemplate where we have, again, the places as Councilman Bracken is pointing out, that people are wanting to get to. Many people here will obviously want to get to our new city center, but right now, many of us want to get over here and patronize our commercial district or get up and go to the Canyon Center where there's restaurants and things like that. And so the gold represents some of these neighborhood byways. You have to kind of get up close to take a look, but I'd be happy to talk to anyone later on if you'd like to look more and you know, move the pins around and think about that sort of thing.
Okay. The third portion of this is the transportation model. As we said, that this model is a high level, it's not a detailed traffic model, it's a regional analysis, provided the numbers come from Wasatch Front Regional Council, and the model is based off of the roadway daily volume. At the bottom is the detailed model, which it's called a synchro model. And that would be kind of what you were thinking, Mayor, for a specific road. That's something we could do in the future. Population data, you guys have seen this before. This is going out to 2050. The 2020 census puts Cottonwood Heights population at 32,700, and its 2050 estimated population at 41,800. The majority of that growth comes from the gravel pit development. The model is based off of what's called a TAS map. A TAS is a traffic analyst zone, and it is counting both the people who live in that area and also the people who would go there as part of their employment. So these numbers include both residents and commuters.
Those are car trips per day within those areas.
That's correct, yes. So you can see if we had, I just have the 2050 on this presentation, but if you were to look at the gravel pit that says 15,291, in the existing, it would say 0.
Couple of dozen trucks.
Yeah, they'd say 25. This is the level of service. Typically, you want to keep your level of service from falling into the E or F. Roadway, so the max level of service that our engineers used in this analysis was a level of service of D, and those are the numbers you see in the table to the right. This is the long-term 2050 no build. If nothing would be built, these are the numbers, the results of the model. And you can see more detailed maps in the report itself. For the projects, I first want to say that, so none of the projects that we're recommending include the addition of asphalt for the purposes of new travel lanes. All the projects that are on that map are focusing primarily on operational improvements, which would include walkability improvements such as sidewalks, pedestrian safety, such as crosswalks. These projects have not been designed yet. These are just merely recommendations for moving forward for the council to use as it does its future budgets. Projects that recommend walkability improvements would include 2300 East, Danish Road, Wasatch Boulevard, Creek Road, 7200 South, Fort Union Boulevard, 30th East. All those projects that are shown on the right The primary purpose is either, in the case of 2300, it includes an auxiliary lane or a middle lane. But also fixing the gaps of the sidewalks, like on 2300 or on Danish. Intersection improvements, we're not part of the model, but they are recommendations from staff, and they include a 2300 East and Fort Union Boulevard, the Highland frontage and La Cresta intersection, and also Fort Union and 1300 East. We've talked about 2300 and Fort Union. The improvements that would be recommended is not adding additional lanes or not adding additional through lanes, but adding a pocket lane so you can turn right.
So
onto
even,
Fort
I
Union.
just want to follow what you're saying, if I
Yes.
may ask. So on this one here, 1700 East.
So that,
It's reconfigure roadway from 2 to 3 lanes. I'm just trying to follow.
so the third lane is not a travel lane, it's the auxiliary lane. That as you get to these volumes that are where it's not enough for 2 lanes, adding that center turn lane improves the traffic flow without really going and adding a whole bunch of new lanes. So like take Park Center, for instance. Park Center is a road that has a lot of commercial development. It's has a high volume for 2 lanes. And it might be, a good idea to add a center turn lane to improve the traffic flow in and out for people making turn movements.
An official.
What's that? An official center turn lane, yes. So these are the recommended projects. There is a map right here that shows the locations. The phasing is, all of these are recommendations for the council to use in its future deliberations. And that would be the end of the presentation.
Well, thanks, Adam. Matt? Sorry, we probably put some more stuff on your plate. Well, not sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah, fun stuff. I'm looking forward to.
Well, there's always
Continuing
things,
this.
this is out to 2050, there's obviously things that can come in and change and alter. Obviously, the hillside development's gonna have an impact. That's also an opportunity to,
Master plans are reviewed annually and generally updated about every 5 years or so, just to make sure that you're keeping up with what's happening. Either added to or taken away, so it's definitely a living document. So keep that in mind as we review this.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, the last item on the staff report. We talked about a little bit during the review for tonight, but is the Tabachi annexation discussion. So Tim, why don't you lead us off and then you hand it over to Shane.
Yeah, so one of the things I've asked Shane is to provide more clarity on the process that we discussed a little bit earlier. So I'm gonna let Shane kind of share where kind of the map of the process would be as if we make decisions tonight.
If the city council accepts this petition for further consideration, then the city recorder has 30 days to determine whether the petition is compliant with the statutory requirements. And the city recorder is able to get information from Salt Lake County and get assistance from the city attorney in making that determination. If once that review is completed, the recorder determines that the petition is not compliant with statutory requirements, then she would be obligated to inform the petition sponsor and the host county. And then there's a potential cure process. The specific defects have to be detailed in the notice of rejection, and then the petitioners would have the right to try to cure those defects and then resubmit. So eventually, presumably, we would get to a point where the petition would be certified by the city recorder as being compliant with the statutory requirements, and the city recorder would then give a written notice of certification to the city council and to the contact sponsor and again to the host county. And so if that occurs, once that notice of certification is received, by then the city has 10 days to publish a notice and is required by code within the annexation area and surrounding it, and then 20 days after the certification notice to mail written notice to each affected entity, and affected entity is a defined term in the annexation laws, which means in our case, Salt Lake County, any special district or special service district that has geography within the annexation area. Maybe the school district, the verbiage seems to say that you only have to inform the school district if their boundary is going to be shifted as a result of the annexation. We'd need to confirm that, and we may want to just give notice in any event, but school district is another possible recipient of notice, and then as well as any other city whose geography is within 1/2 mile of the annexation. So that notice goes out within 20 days after the receipt of the recorder's notice of certification. And that commences a potential protest period. Well, it doesn't commence, so there is a protest period that runs for 30 days after the city council's receipt of the recorder's notice of certification. So the protests can only be filed by certain entities and individuals, and just going from memory, one would be the host county, and another, there's a notice, or rather a protest right to anyone who owns a rural property within the annexation area, and that is a defined term. Any landowner who owns 25% or more of the land area within the annexation area, or I think within a 1/2 mile surrounding it, would also have a protest right. There may be one other one, but anyway, there isn't a general right to protest the annexation. Not just anyone can do it. It's only these 4 specific categories of entities or people, and they have to be basically as I've described. And so if a protest is filed, by then the protest then eventually is heard by a boundary commission. There are statutory requirements on how the boundary commission is created and impaneled and funded, and what they can do and what they can do. They can do things like get a feasibility study prepared concerning the annexation and various things like that. It goes through a process. There isn't really a time period for that to end. I think it takes, there is a statutory requirement that says that the boundary commission has to issue its decision within 60 days or 90 days. It can take longer than that, but eventually the boundary commission will issue its decision, and if it denies the annexation, why then that's one course of action. The other course of action, of course, is if it approves the annexation. So if there's a protest, why that's what happens. If there isn't a protest, why then after the protest period ends, why then the city council can go ahead and consider the annexation. They would have to hold notice and then hold a public hearing concerning the annexation. And then following that public hearing, the city council can make its decision on whether or not to pursue the annexation. That same thing would occur if there was a protest that was denied, such that the annexation petition was ready to proceed with city council consideration. Again, there would have to be that same notice by the city and public hearing and a decision ultimately. Again, how long the city council has to make that decision isn't really set in the applicable statute. So that's kind of
a basic roadmap. There are nuances and details that I've omitted, but that's kind of what, the roadmap would look like going forward if the city council were to, accept this, petition for further consideration. If it decides to deny the petition for further consideration, why then within 5 days after the denial, why there's an obligation to notify the petition sponsors.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Any other questions from the council?
No, I mean, I would note that, timing on that, I believe the only time you can actually formally do the annexation is the 1st of January, July 1st. Tax collection becomes an issue that would probably go in. We'd get that in the report if we accept and have staff do the,
Yeah,
this shouldn't be a huge amount of time. It's 43 properties. You know, to get an estimate of what it would cost to provide, you know, the development services and police services up there. So I mean,
Councilman Bracken's correct. There are specific dates when an annexation will go effective after it's been approved by the council. So
and July 1 is one where you may come in a little behind. But so I mean, effectively, but you know,
Yeah.
we had that similar thing on our first half year here is there was no revenue. The only revenue we got was we asked the county nice and they gave us some, but they were not obligated to turn over any of the property tax in the year of 2005 to have us operate from July 1 to December 31st.
Okay, great. So let's move on. So item 4 is just a review of calendars and upcoming events. So just a reminder, October 27th is in 10 days, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Cotton Heights Rec Center is the Monster Mash. October 31st, Halloween, there will be a 3 to 4:30 trunk or treat here at Cottonwood Heights City Hall in the parking lot. November 21st is the general election and voting centers will be open here at City Hall from 7 a.m. until 8 p.m. for both district seats, District 1 and 2. November 24th is through the December 7th is the holiday decorating contest. And then November 27th is Light the Heights at City Hall, which we look forward to lighting that Christmas tree out in our plaza. Okay, so we do have an item to discuss in a closed session regarding personal and professional competence. So Scott, I will let you make whatever motion you want to get into that point.
What was the subject?
Personal and professional competence.
Oh, that's right. I move that we close our open session and open a closed session for the personnel items.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?